Okay, and if you're wondering how you can download your own stuff from YouTube, Vimeo, or other kinds of websites, the best way to do it is to get browser plugins. And one that I really like that's free to use with Firefox is this one that is it's called Video Professional, or excuse me, Video Downloader Professional. And in spite of its name, it sounds like it's something you would pay for. It's actually free. He does ask, that people give him a donation, but you don't have to do that. So anyway, it's going to put a little icon up in your Firefox that looks like this movie reel. And the thing about it is that in order to actually download it, you have to start playing whatever film it is, whether it's on Vimeo, Internet Archive, wherever it happens to be. Once you hit play, you'll get this little green arrow, and then you'll get a list of all of the different available sizes on that page that you can download. You always want to download the highest level MP4 that's possible. Or if you know that you're only going to be doing 720p, you can just download 720p if it comes in a higher format. Okay, let's talk about the tools, concepts, techniques that we're going to cover in this assignment. So some of these I'm not going to really go over because they should be familiar to you, but there are a couple of things that are probably going to be new concepts to you. Things like, for instance, using chroma keying, or also referred to as color keying. And that's sort of like basically like green screening something, if you've heard of that, where you have a dominant color that is sort of in high contrast to everything else that you can map out of it. Green screening specifically doesn't work that well in Photoshop across many frames in a video, but and that's typically because you're still going to get some of the green screen haloing effect. But there are other ways of doing other dominant colors if it's the right kind of contrast. And we'll go over that, and the way that you would do that in Photoshop that's different, say, in a professional video tool like After Effects or something, is in Photoshop you can use this thing called Blend If, and it's part of a layer style. We'll go over that later. Also, concepts of keyframing, which we have discussed in a different assignment, and tweening and how those things work. But we'll be going over that again. And a lot of other little technical things about how we use transitions and things like that in Photoshop to create good video effects. So let's talk about the process. Where are we going to start? Well, first of all, you need to listen to those audio clips. And I already gave you the information about where to find that, but here it is yet again. And when you're listening to the clips, all right, there's some things that you need to be mindful about from the beginning. One is that your entire video is going to be 2 to 3 minutes in duration. It can't be less than 2 minutes, and more than 3 minutes, and you're going to start having some processing issues potentially, depending on your computer. Anyway, so you're going to notice that most of the clips are not fully 2 minutes long. So that means you're going to have to be creative in how you seam them together, how you overlay the sound and things like that. Anyway, so think about how some of the clips can be combined and layered with each other and transition together to set a mood. Additionally, think about how different clips transition together can actually change the mood. How you go from like slow to fast, quiet to loud, or something that's sort of pleasant to something that's sort of eerie or really different. Also, decide whether or not you want to capture the actual feeling of the audio or the music that you're listening to, or if you want to use it in an ironic way. And when you're collecting the resources, something that you need to think about as part of your beginning process is about the actual resolution of the video. So make sure that the video requirements are going to be met by the stuff that you're choosing. If you're choosing something that's much smaller than that, then just realize that you're going to have to use it in a portion of the larger video, that you're not going to be able to actually scale the thing up. So spend some time downloading these resources so that you can experiment with them. And I think that this is going to be kind of an important part. Yes, you do want to experiment with some stuff, but you also are probably going to need to go back and really focus on watching lots of stuff and brainstorming and thinking about how these things can go together to effectively communicate what you want to communicate. So anyway, there's that. And I already talked about the downloader tool for Firefox as an extension. And for still images, you're totally able to use still images. I'm not requiring it, but a lot of you guys are definitely going to want to use it. So there's unsplash.com, as you well know, morgue file. Also, archive.org has an image section that's not just for video, but they also have images as well. And for some reason, I don't know why, but this is not really, I don't know why. Sometimes YouTube will populate the entire page with the same video. So I'm going to refresh this page. And you see that it actually shows the correct video here. I don't know why it was doing the other thing. So know that the example one, if it shows up with the same video that's down below as sample two, know that that this is actually what's supposed to be there. So just hit your refresh button on the page and then you should get the right video. Anyway, the examples that I give you here are not, I'm not telling you what you have to do. You don't have to mimic these exact things. These are just some ideas, some versions of interpretations of this assignment that you could look at as, maybe getting some inspiration of how you can think about it. And I want you to read this. I can talk about it, but I want you to really closely read all of this information that I have down below, because it really explains kind of the approach that was taken. I'll give you a quick overview that this video example, it has a total of 6 video clips, 4 still images, and 2 music clips. And you even though I told you you can't use anything with words, any music with words, one of the video clips that was part of public domain, it actually has a narration. That's okay. If the video clip that you download that you want to use, or one of them that you want to use, has some sort of narration or like ambient sound, that's in the background, that's going to be okay to use. An example would be, like in this example, it's going to be for this one where it was a video documentary of something about underwater bombing and for nuclear testing. That's fine. If it's a video of birds chirping, or there are birds chirping in the video, that's fine to keep too. If it's rushing water, waterfall, something like that, totally fine. If there are just people sort of talking in the background and you really want to keep that ambient sound, that's fine too. What's definitely not okay, and it's very obvious whenever it happens, is let's say that somebody uploads some royalty-free or stock-free or copyright-free or whatever Creative Commons stuff to YouTube, but then they go and they overlay sound on top of it. I don't care if it's copyright-free sound that they've overlaid on top. I still don't want you to use that. You'll have to mute it in your video. I really want you to stick to the music that I've provided, and because I want you to sort of, like I said before, put you in that box so that you can kind of think outside of it. Now, if you wanted to look at this as an example and get some idea of how this thing was created, I talked about how it's got, lots of clips and images and things like that. This one is a pretty full composite. So if we wanted to listen to it, let's just hit play.
Machinery loading and response studies. For the hull studies, a great variety of gauges were installed on the target vessels to record phenomena on velocities, display.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause real quick, and what you'll notice here is that if you pay attention, and you can watch this on your own, you're going to see that in this left book, there's a video that has been masked out. It's actually the whole video is as big as this screen, or as big as this entire video dimension, but it's been masked out and moved in place so that the people who are diving into the water land in a certain spot in the book. So it looks like they're literally just coming down into the book. And then on the right-hand book, there are 2 videos masked in, and they've been transformed and distorted so that they sort of fit the page, and also masked so that there's one video, it's actually the one with the narration that plays on the left page, and on the right page there's a different one of like nuclear underwater testing. And then this other picture, it's like this picture of a table with the books, that's one picture. And then we've got this thing with the window in the background, that was another picture where I masked out the windows. And then I also have a video of sky in the background that's playing with moving clouds. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And then, this is a still picture of concrete texture that I put on the wall. So you can see that it's just sort of like a really simple little composite. It's actually not that simple, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and I explain all of those things here. And if you wanted to look at the resources to get some sort of idea of how those things originally looked, I provide all of the links to them here. So these are all streaming links. And then down here are some of those still images so that you can kind of see how everything was transformed. Okay. And then this is another example that's just totally different. And it's using a very different approach. Instead of taking, like this one at the top, instead of taking a bunch of still images and then sort of cutting out masking areas, like in the books and in the window where there are moving pictures that are sort of playing behind them or playing through them, instead of doing that, this one basically has no still images in them. And so that's, in some ways, that's even more challenging, because you have to end up blending things together and masking them together in really different kinds of ways. You can't use traditional masks whenever there's something that's complex, like this ink and water. When there's something complex like that moving, you can't use a traditional mask in Photoshop if you're trying to get like all of these little tiny in between moving parts masked as well. This is where you have to start using something that's kind of building on the color keying concept, where you're blocking out or blanking out a solid contrasting color so that you can use that as a mask and then see through to a lower level of video. Or you can use blend modes or a combination of blend if with blend modes so that you start getting these really interesting combinations. And I'll play just a really quick segment. You can watch this on your own. So we've got moving clouds here, and the ink blot is coming down, and as the ink blot comes down, you start to see the video behind it, and it's getting blend effects. And if I jump forward a little bit in the video, you'll get to this place where the music changes in just a moment. This is where a second clip comes in, and so you could listen to different clips and see how they could really transition into each other and then just change the entire effect of what the person is experiencing and listening to. And with this one, there are some other things that are done. Let's see if we can drag the timeline. There is a place where the music sort of changes, and whereas the one up above, there aren't a lot of transitions that happen that are necessarily in the cadence of the music. This one actually does that more, where it responds a little bit specifically to what's happening in the music. Let's see if I can find the spot to give you an example. So that's an example of where the mapping of the music to some of the effects of what are happening on the timeline are really key and critical. And there's some other places in here that are like that. And so you could watch that and get an idea. Anyway, and so there's an explanation of the resources that were used here. I'm going to end this video here, and then we'll transition into the last explanation video.